You want to find out who lives in a pineapple under the sea? If so, you've clicked on the wrong video, because today I'm finding out how much money I can make on Borderlands 2 in just 1 hour in a challenge I'm calling Cash Grab. The rules are simple. I'm starting on a completely fresh save and I have exactly 1 hour to make as much money as possible before the timer runs out. The only thing that counts is the cash total at the end, meaning weapons sitting in my inventory don't count, and Iridium is basically useless for this challenge. Sorry, Crazy Arrow.
Where are you, Scrabber? Scrabber!
If you enjoy challenge videos like this, then there's a pretty good chance that you'll enjoy the rest of my channel too, so please consider subscribing. Anyway, the game is loaded, the timer is ready, and all that's left to do is grab some cash. I started the run with a strategy in mind, and it all began with my character choice, Zero. His decoy ability would be crucial for surviving higher level enemies, which I would be running into very shortly. My plan was to get the Tinder Snowflake farm up and running as quickly as possible, but there was one small problem. Everything in that DLC started at level 15. And to get to Tinder Snowflake, I had to beat the entire thing. And I, currently level 1. So before I could start making money, I needed experience. After watching Claptrap actively waste my time by crashing into walls and completely just falling over, I decided to leave the eyeless little robot to his own devices and headed to Digistruct Peak for what could possibly be the hardest mission in Borderlands: opening a gate. Somehow, this heroic achievement managed to get me all the way to level 3, and with that newfound power, I decided it was time to abuse the level 30 DLC scaling. My destination? Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep. After wasting even more time watching an unskippable cutscene, I swam through the water to avoid the skeletons who would have happily beaten me to death for their own entertainment. Eventually, I reached another gate, where I was immediately attacked by a dragon. That dragon quickly transformed into a tiny little skeleton named Mr. Bony Pants Guy, the bane of this run. The boss I had completely forgotten that I actually had to kill in order to progress to Flame Rock Refuge. Luckily for me, there was somebody nearby who seemed more than willing to remove Mr. Bony Pants Guy from existence. This Golem. The only problem was getting the two of them to actually fight each other. After leading what felt like an entire army of skeletons back to the Golem stomping grounds, I was immediately hit by a stray arrow which stunned me and left me completely defenseless. Seconds later, I was turned into a human pincushion and suffered my first death of the challenge. Not exactly ideal. After respawning nearby, I noticed the Golem was still fighting some skeletons, which got me excited for a moment. That was until I realised Mr. Bunny Pants Guy had despawned and teleported all the way back to the beginning. So I had to do the entire thing again. I once again introduced Mr. Bony Pants Guy to the front of my sniper rifle, dealing almost 0 damage, but luckily it was still enough to get him angry. After successfully dragging the two combatants together for a second time, I somehow managed to stand directly in the middle of the crossfire and went down to fire damage, making that 2 deaths. But this time I got lucky, and I respawned, the two of them were actually fighting each other. And to say the Golem kicked his ass is an understatement. With Mr. Bony Pants dead, we finally opened the path to Flame Rock Refuge. Unfortunately, because I didn't get the final hit on Mr. Bony Pants Guy, I didn't get any experience from the kill, which was slightly annoying. Though the path finally open, I decided, instead of running all the way around to get to the fast travel point, I just let the Golem kill me for the 3rd time. But it was okay, because I finally had headed to Flame Rock Refuge in a desperate attempt to get some actual levels. After speaking to what felt like half the population of Flame Rock Refuge, I quickly realised I was a quarter of the way through the challenge, and I only had about $4,000 to my name. Things were not looking good for the challenge. At this point, I knew I needed a new strategy. before I could completely abandon my original plan, I still needed to reach at least level 5 and unlock Zero's decoy ability. Otherwise, literally everything in this DLC could kill me instantly. So I kept pushing through the quests for the townsfolk. And from this clip here, you can see that even a fire barrel had more health than what my weapons could deal. After unloading what felt like an entire ammunition factory into these barrels, I finally managed to blow them both up. Then, after chasing a townsman, solving a riddle and collecting some crumpets, I had somehow found myself at level 6. But there was another problem. I was now nearly halfway through the challenge, which meant it was finally time to completely throw my original strategy in the bin. Instead, I came up with a new plan. Near Mr. Bony Pants Guy, there was a weapon chest that sat on top of a ship, and that chest became my entire life. Loot the chest, quit to menu, repeat. Then, once my inventory was full, I would run all the way back to Flame Rock Refuge and sell everything. This, however, was where Zero's decoy ability finally became useful. After a few runs, I realised that one of the archers could still hit me while I was looting the chest. But throwing out my decoy let me grab the loot safely, while the skeleton unloaded arrows into my holographic twin instead. I repeated this process over and over and over again. Eventually, I started building up a pretty decent amount of iridium. Iridium, which at the start of this challenge, I admit I had called completely useless, which means I now technically owe Crazy Earl an apology, because the slot machines in this DLC run on iridium, and what better way to make some money than by gambling. My new strategy was simple: keep farming the chest until the final few minutes, then dump all my iridium into the slot machines and pray for the best. And somehow, it had actually worked. Within about 10 minutes, I had turned $4,000 into over $70,000. Suddenly, with around 20 minutes left on the clock, things were actually starting to look a bit promising, so I kept going. Chest, loot, quit, repeat. Over and over again, till there were only 4 minutes left in the challenge. At this point, time for one final cash out. I sold everything, even my starting weapons. Then I headed straight to the slot machines, and I had collected enough iridium for 6 spins. At first, the machines weren't giving me anything. They even tried to kill me. Until the very last spin. Jackpot. An extra $10,000. Bringing my total all the way up to $166,000. And with just under 3.5 minutes remaining, I made a risky decision. I decided to go back to the chest. I managed to loot the chest a couple more times before finally sprinting back to Flame Rock Refuge with only 90 seconds left. I sold everything that I had left in my inventory, and with 1 minute remaining, I just ran around Flame Rock Refuge, looting every container and pile of garbage I could find for a few extra dollars before the timer ran out. And as the timer hit 0, I could finally relax for the first time in an hour. And as I prepared to reveal the final total, I noticed something horrifying. I still had one weapon sitting in my backpack. I don't know where it came from, I don't know how I got it. All I know is I am an idiot. So naturally, there was only one solution I could think of. I threw it off a cliff and watched it disappear beneath the waves forever. But more importantly, my final total of this challenge was $176,991. And with that, the challenge has officially come to an end. If you made it this far into the video, I genuinely want to thank you. This was my first attempt at a challenge video like this, and it really does mean a lot. I'd also love for some of you to try this challenge yourselves, so if you do, let me know the final total and your strategy down in the comments. I'm really curious how other people would tackle this. If this wasn't enough content for you, I'm also live on Twitch every Thursday evening, where I'm currently doing another Borderlands 2 challenge run, so feel free to stop by and say hello. But for now, that's where I'll leave things. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.